Hey, good morning, everyone. Hope you're all having a good day. Thankfully, it's warmed up out, and so that does make a big difference. But anyway, welcome back to part 3 of working on the corn planter. And here on row 2, I gotta swap out boxes. Got this spare box right here. Actually, we have several of these. When we bought this planter in 2007, a neighbor, northeast of our farm, had an old John Deere planter, and it had several of the, come to think of it, it had all the fertilizer tanks on it that were still in decent shape, and along with all the boxes. And so I think we gave her like $500 for it because they didn't use it. It just sat. And so we took all the tanks off, kept them, and then also all the boxes. And so we still have all the boxes, and I think three spare tanks. But anyway, on this box here, you can see that lid does not want to latch. That hook right there should hook right underneath that back lip. Well, it's got that big crack right there, so they don't want to latch on. Which means the wind can come along and knock the lid off. So we're going to take the finger pickup unit off. If you saw, it was a video I posted here a couple weeks back regarding these finger pickups. You saw that machine I got to calibrate these things, that Metermax. And so let's see here. The last time they were done, 420. And usually I would take these to that guy about every 3 years to have him calibrate these. Well, now that I ended up with his machine, his Metermax, I can do it myself. And so these here, they're good to go this year, and so it won't be until 2023 when I do it. So we'll set the old box right there for now. And however, I'm actually tempted to keep that old box just in case I should ever need it. Now that one right there had a wing nut on it. I'm not necessarily a great big huge fan of those, so I'll put the wings back onto this box here. And that just sits right down there like that. Kind of bump it around and get to work just right. There we go. Just gotta watch you don't grab and squeeze that trigger and throw full power on that. It's a good way to bust one of them stud bolts and or just strip it out of the fiberglass. Then you are hung. Okay, there's the box. We'll put that back in. There we go. Hey, that's how it's supposed to work. Latched on. So I'll go ahead and take these covers off. We actually got these covers from a neighboring farmer here several years ago. In fact, Ashley, before we built this big shed that I'm in right now, back in 2014, from, let's see here, from 2007 up through 2013, we actually kept this planter at a big shed up north. The same neighbor that gave me these box covers had access to a big shed, and so we would keep the planter inside of that. But once we built this big shed in 2014, well, then we had enough shed room to be able to keep it right here on the farm, which makes it a whole lot nicer. In fact, my dad and I have talked, it'd be nice to have another big shed this same size. This one here is 60 feet wide by 125 long. And it'd be nice to have another big 60 by 125. And I love the steel building. I'd take that over stick built any day. It goes up so much faster. In fact, actually, one thing I'd actually like to have would be a, I don't know if any of you have, well, either seen videos on YouTube. I know the one channel, Big Tractor Power, he does a lot of videos out there at the Half Century of Progress there at Rantoul, Illinois. And that's that old Air Force base. I'd love to have one of those big old airplane hangars. Now that'd be nice. You could pack all kinds of goodies inside those things. Gonna take and throw the back lights on. That way I can take and stack up all those box covers. And then in these insecticide boxes, since we don't run any kind of insecticide through these back boxes, we actually use them for a lot of part storage. In this one right here, for example, in fact, when I was showing you on those squeeze pumps, that right there is the back plate. You can see where the hose, where it squeezes that rubber hose up against that. You got 3 marks on that one and 3 marks on that one. And that right there, that's one of the bars. A little spring sits on top of each one of these little bubbles. A little spring sits on there, and that's what holds that back plate up against it and makes it kind of like spring loaded as it rolls around. But I keep the parts for the left hand in this box for the left hand pump, and then the same thing for the right hand pump. I keep the parts on the opposite end of the planter. But like I say, since we don't run insecticide, these back boxes work great for carrying additional stuff. In here, oh, we got graphite, a bottle brush. We run that down. In fact, actually, I've got to do that. We run this down each one of the seed tubes to clean the little monitor eyes off. In here, I just have spare seed tubes, and right there I've got two brand new monitor eye sensors. This box here, part of the back hinge broke off. Actually, it's been broke off, I think, ever since we had the planter. But it holds on, so that's what counts. Nothing in that one. I'll also carry a couple additional press wheels. Come on. Yeah, there we go. Like that, with new bearings. If a press wheel goes out, we can simply knock out the old one and put another one in until I can get another bearing put into it. In fact, I need to check those. I usually try to keep about 2 or so. In the planter. And a lot of these boxes, they don't have anything at all. Well, except for a couple additional seed corn bags. I'm trying to find, I thought there should have been, oh, there it is. As in say, normally I keep two additional press wheels, and there we are. Got one here and got one back here in the back. That works. I also wanted to check and make sure that the bearings were good. And yes, they both have new bearings. And like I say, there's the back plates for the right-hand pump. And there's a coffee can, a scraper paddle we can stick in there and scrape the corn around. It just saves putting your hands in all that pink insecticide. There we are. And I'll just stop right there for a minute. For my farmer friends up in Canada, JJ&S Farms, don't you just love that color green? I like to pick on those guys. Drive them crazy with green tractors. And so, well, I can't even get down through there. We have to open up a spot to put these covers in, and or just put them right here underneath the combine. But, like I say, that's pretty much everything that I could think of, and also that I had on my little to-do list to check out was that box, that sprocket you saw me put on the fertilizer pump, and that kind of stuff. This up here, for anybody wondering, this is actually a little manifold system I set up, let's see here, I think it was in 2011, for a pop-up fertilizer. This hose here coming around is the feed hose. Then you got these 12 lines, and each line goes out to each row and onto a seed firmer. And a lot of guys run Keaton seed firmers. And when we got this planter, it had those white Keaton seed firmers on it. And I hated those things because the way they hang down, when you go to set the planter down, they'd jam up between the double disc opener and stick there. And so I actually went through and took them all out. And then I think it was in 2011, we got connected with this fertilizer company out of Ohio for putting this pop-up on. And I set this system here up. It's made by Schaffert. And the seed firmer is a whole lot better setup, in my opinion. because, well, let me see if I can show you right quick. Find a spot somewhere that's got some light, halfway decent. Okay, get in there between the gauge wheels. There it is. You see a little orange seed firmer right there. It's got that little Y splitter, and that's where that orange tube comes down, and it basically just Y's apart right there. That way it kind of splits the fertilizer as it comes out, essentially on both sides of the seed, and that works out pretty good. But as you can see, they just barely stick out beyond the gauge wheels, about a ½ inch. And so you can set the planter down in dirt. They don't stick, they don't jam up inside, they don't bend up, they don't mess up or anything. And it's a whole lot better system from what I found. Like I say, in fact, I think my neighbor, he has Keaton, and I've asked him if he ever has any trouble, and he said, surprisingly, he's never really had that problem. But I've heard of other guys having that problem. You go to set the thing down, that seed firmer sticking out probably anywhere from 4 to 6 inches out between the gauge wheels right there. And so when you go to set the planter down, it jams that seed firmer up into the double disc openers. And I didn't like that. Like I say, for us, this Schaffert has worked out a whole lot better, and I just like the setup and the design a whole lot more too. That firmer simply zip ties to the seed tube, and so it's very easy to take off and on. No big deal there, and so it works great for us. And up here on the front, right here. This here, once I get it hooked up, this is the feed hose that goes back down along, well, right there, you can kind of see it, and goes back to that white manifold. And along with a control wire that follows it too, back there to those, I don't know if I can zoom it up here or not. You see right there on the left-hand side that hydraulic cylinder. That's one of the master cylinders on the planter. You can see that whisker switch hanging down. That's what shuts my that's what shuts the pump on and off. When you raise the planter up, it trips that little whisker switch, and it shuts this pump off. Let's see if I can zoom back out now to normal. There we are. And so when you raise the planter up, that pump automatically shuts off by that switch. There is a main control that is in the tractor on a rheostat for variable speed. We run 30 PSI, and that comes out to be right at about 5 gallons per acre. And then that pump is simply drawing from these little saddle tanks. They're not real big, but we can do approximately about 30 acres per fill-up. And the nice thing, they actually sit right into these rock boxes. I actually have to set them up on 2x4s. Otherwise, they'll sit down in the rock box and want to rest on this shutoff, that ball valve shutoff right there. You don't want that, go way to break it. But then they simply just tee together underneath from left and right. You can see how it tees, goes up. It goes through that 50 mesh, 80 mesh filter, and then on back to the pump down beside the tractor. And so yeah, that's the basic setup of it as far as the pop-up goes. Like I say, it's worked great for us, and it's a pop-up fertilizer out of, in fact, it's northern Ohio, and I think it might actually be up by Lake Erie. And so, but yeah, that's my, that's the pop-up system, along with everything else. And so I think that's pretty much got everything on this planter covered. I've got to do a few simple odds and ends, but other than that, I think this big guy is basically ready to go. So take care. If you like what you see, subscribe. We'll see you next time.